and you couldn't hear me at all on the YouTube, and now you can? Don't know. Hello. Oh, yep, there I am. Okay, cool. Um, Sorry about that. Sometimes I forget. There's a button up on my box here that makes it so that I can turn the audio on. Anyway, we haven't recorded a podcast live in a while, so doing it today. Remember, if you want to have your questions, just put them in all caps over in the comments. And I'm not even letting social media know. I'm just going for it today, just because we haven't done one live in a while. This is a thought of the walk episode, so it's a little shorter than usual, but you know, it's Friday. We should enjoy the day. Okay, so I'm just gonna jump right in. Well, welcome everyone. And I made an audio error because it is recording on the wrong track, and we're gonna hit stop. This is how you produce a podcast, guys. You hit stop, you hit undo, you hit I want to record here, you go there, and then you try again. Well, welcome everyone to Living Free in Tennessee, where we talk about building the life you choose on your terms. Today is Friday, April 9th, 2021. This is episode 417 of Living Free in Tennessee, and it is a Friday. We either do interviews or thoughts of the walk on Fridays, and today's a thought of the walk day. And that means this is a shorter episode. Here's how they come to be. I like to go for walks, and I have to be honest, haven't been really fitting my walks in much lately, but I will. But I did get one in, and I did have a thought, and I even wrote it down so I remembered it for today. So we're going to be talking about being always available today. And that will just be a short one topic episode. It's just a way to share my thoughts with you and invite your feedback. Before we jump into that, though, I wanted to say that the schedule for the next week is a little rocky. So in not next week, but the week after next, my spring workshop happens. And that means that those episodes will be replay episodes. So my friend Pranav will be uploading those for me and may not go out on social because I haven't set up password sharing so that he could post to my social, but I might get that done by the end of next week. If I don't, just keep your eye on the podcast feed and on the website, and you'll see the episodes as they come out. Next week, we are getting ready for the workshop, and I am committing to 3 episodes. So those should be everything as planned, but they may be kind of late in the day a couple times, because if somebody shows up to do something during the day and I need to help them, then I may not record till the evening. So just, it may not be the usual about 2 to 5 o'clock range that they come out. Also, April's webinar for members is a relocation roundtable. And I know a lot of you are interested in this. It'll be April 27th, which is a Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central. And if you want to sign up for that, you have to be a member. This one is members only. You can't buy it for $50, but you can buy a membership for $50. This is members only. In order to sign up, go to livingfreeintennessee.com. On the right-hand bar, there's a login button. It says about the webinar. And then you sign in, and on your membership landing page, there's that little letter from me at the top of it. Right there is the link to register for the event. We are limited in our availability, like how many people we can reasonably roundtable with. And sign up if you're interested in just learning more about relocating, strategic relocation, and relocation to Tennessee. Doesn't have to be to Tennessee. If you're thinking of Texas, that's fine. Or if you think, I want to participate from the perspective of somebody who relocated. So if you're that person, then go ahead and sign up too. It'll ask you 3 questions. The first question is like name and contact information. Second question is, are you looking to relocate, or are you looking to share your story of relocating or your perspective on it? And then the third one is just a little more information for me so I can see where everybody is on their journey. You can write whatever you want in that. It's totally up to you. You can write ... and that's fine too. It's just an opportunity for you to say, I've been in California my whole life and we're going to move, but we have like kids and this house with a swimming pool we need to sell and blah, 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 right? You've got those things. So that's April 27th, 7 p.m. Central. Hope to see you there. Finally, if you want to send me Stump the Sauce questions or any other feedback, you can do it, Nicole at livingfreeintennessee.com, or go over to livingfreeintennessee.com and click on contact. And there you will just have a form to fill out, and that comes to me. I am putting the call out. I have about 4 or 5 items for a listener feedback show next week. And so if you want to get in on that, now is a good time to send that email off to me. With that, it is time for the main topic of today's show, and that is a thought of the walk on availability. And guys listening on the podcast, we're recording this live on YouTube, which means if I see something on YouTube in all caps about this topic, I may build it in to the podcast episode. If you ever want to check that out, you can go to YouTube and subscribe to my channel, hit the bell button, and when I decide to whimsically record my podcast live, you'll be notified. It's that simple. I know a lot of you aren't using YouTube anymore, and this will be available on Odyssey as well. And someday Odyssey will stream and my life will change and I'll start streaming this on Odyssey. Although I might just do it on the Float app, FLOTE.app. Float app. It works like Twitter, sort of, but they have live streaming and I haven't played with it. So I'm totally going to play with that just to see. Anyway, main topic of the show, thought lock on being always available or availability. So this is how this goes, right? The text message comes in on your phone, and I'm pointing to my phone right now for those of you who are listening. And my notices are turned off for the night. This happened. I have no idea that happened when a text message comes in and I'm in do not disturb mode. And the next morning when I wake up, what started as a text message question has turned into a few follow-up texts and then an apology for offending me. But I'm not offended. I was just asleep. And I didn't reply because I didn't see it because I was asleep. And so usually when that happens, I say, okay, hey man, I was asleep. Answer to the first question. This sort of thing happens to me roughly 4 times a week. 4 times a week. It's actually why my phone has do not disturb turned on. And it's programmed in. It just puts itself into do not disturb mode at a certain time of night and comes out of it in the morning. And it's funny because when it happens, what I notice is the story that the person has told themselves about why I'm not answering is totally different than the reality, which was I was just sleeping and I don't check my text messages when I'm sleeping. And that reaction happens when I don't answer emails quickly. That happens when I don't pick up the phone when it rings. And I am that person that if I'm in the middle of garden forking and I hear my phone ringing, I don't drop the garden fork, run to the phone, see who it is. I finish the row because it takes like, half hour, 45 minutes to garden fork a row. And then I go look at the phone. That's just me. But what these stories that people tell themselves when I don't react have told me is that it's interesting that we as a society have come to expect the people we want to reach to immediately respond. And if they don't respond, the story we tell ourselves about why they didn't respond taps into our insecurities and it taints the story we tell. And we either end up with the other person's either mad at us, offended, or dead, right? Are they in the hospital? They're not answering my text. We've all done it. I've had a couple times I couldn't reach mom because her phone was out of whack. And it was usually a time when I could reach her where I'm like calling my sister, is mom okay? The funny thing is those stories we tell ourselves are usually wrong. That's the thing about expecting people to be always available. The expectation of always available. It's an unhealthy culture that we've fostered, right? And it's been fostered by the tech giants, by the devices that are supposed to set us free. And it's been fostered by an increasingly entitled population. They're entitled to their answer and they're entitled to it now. So Saturday night at midnight, if I realize that something I bought on Amazon is broken and I hop online and I return it, I can use their customer support chat feature to get my mailing label and a refund right away. Boom, Saturday night at midnight. Or if I post something for sale on Facebook Marketplace and somebody sends me a message at 2 a.m, by the time I wake up at like 6 or 7, Facebook has like already prodded me a few times to answer those people. People sell things better when they respond immediately. It's like they're being all judgy about it. That's how we're being programmed by big tech on that. So, being always available is an expectation for some, but it's also at the root of a lot of time management problems and other problems that we have. And that's what I was thinking about when I thought about this idea of being always available. Is it's actually, if you choose to be always available 24/7, this is what happens to you. You end up taking too much time to do something that shouldn't take a lot of time because you have multiple interruptions. What do I mean by that? Well, let's say I need to go roast coffee. And when I roast coffee, I need to concentrate on roasting coffee. And if I walk away from roasting coffees, particularly at strategic times in the roast, I could burn the beans and then I have to start over and roast it twice. Okay. And so if I'm always available and I'm answering text messages, am I paying attention to the roast? No. Is the coffee going to taste as good? Probably not. Where if I just play some music in the background or a podcast and roast the coffee and don't let anybody talk to me, it gets done efficiently because I'm not taking time in between each roast to answer something. It gets done at a higher quality. This is true when I do website design as well. If I do website design and don't get interrupted, I dive in and I understand, like every website has a different structure. You have to understand. I've put that conceptually into the computer that's attached to my shoulders. And if I get interrupted, I'm pulled out of that. And then I have to jump back in. And that's when I make weird typo mistakes or forget to do something, right? So taking too much time to do things that don't take that much time is partially the result of being always available, which means always interruptible. There's not a difference between available and interruptible. And when you realize that and start taking control of the interruptible parts of your day and reducing them, you find things like doing your dishes after dinner or folding your laundry or clipping your nails happens from beginning to end a lot more efficiently than if you're like clipping 3 nails and answering a text message and clipping 3 nails and answering a text message. And I use that example because I looked down at my hands yesterday. Yesterday morning, I was clipping my nails and I had clipped the left hand. And somebody here asked me a question that required me to go get something. And so I went to go get it. And at the end of the day, I had one hand with clipped nails and one hand without clipped nails. And I was like, okay, I got to take control of this interruption thing because if I'm always available, my nails don't get clipped. And I don't like having long nails. So there you go. Another thing that being always available does is it can add to or create the inability to sleep or get sleep at night. So if you're always available and your notices are on, you get woken up, right? And then you have to look. And then half the time it's nothing important. And then you have to get back to sleep. And that means you're never getting good sleep. But the fear of missing something, even if you're not getting notices, can also keep you up at night. And having that screen like lighting up it's like you have a light show in your bedroom. That's not good. Another thing it does, a loss of closeness in your relationships with your children. Um, Pretty much anybody we spend time with, mom, dad, grandparents, friends. When we are always available, when we're spending time with them, that means we're looking at the little black box, right? Yaos has a song called Little Black Box that his daughter sings and wrote, and it's pretty cool. Guys on YouTube just got to see me sneeze. Guys on the podcast didn't have to hear it. Ha ha ha. It's my secret silent sneeze. Anyway, so that really impacts our relationships. And I realize it when I'm sitting in the living room with my mom and I'm on my phone and she's talking to me thinking I'm hearing her. I'm not hearing her because I'm looking at my phone. That happened this morning. I was actually working on my phone on something and she walked up and said something. I said, hold on, I got to finish this thing and then I'll talk to you. And then it won't be like I do the robot yes. You know what the robot yes is, right? When somebody's talking to you and you're like, uh-huh, 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 uh-huh. You have no idea what they said. You have no idea what they said. And that's because you're making yourself always available to something else. You might be responding to comments on social media. You might be responding to a text message. But letting that happen and letting that spill over into the time that you should be just having dinner with your family or whatever, it's not a very good thing for your relationships. And over time, people just think you don't care about them. That's no good. It leads to an inability to create space for mental and spiritual development. And this one's really important. This means when you go for that walk to kind of reset, the little black box should go in silent mode sometimes. Like, I get it. If you're waiting for an important business call you have to take, then okay, set that up so you can answer your phone. But if you're going on a walk and you're interruptible and you're always available and you're answering texts while walking, you know what you're not doing? You're not seeing what wild edible plants are growing. You are not going to find those morel mushrooms. You are not watching your dogs very closely. One might get hit by a car. But you're also not just allowing your brain to clear of all the little noise that's in our life. And this is not germane to right now in our society. There's always a lot of little noise if you let there be. And then process some of those bigger things. And that's a big deal. Being always available totally shuts that off. It shuts off your ability to spend time having a spiritual understanding of things. And those are all things. Being always available helps you get fat. How is that, Nicole? It could help you get skinny if you forget to eat. It helps you get fat because all of a sudden you start prioritizing those interruptions over the things you know you need to do to take care of your body. And that it may look like I forgot to eat all day, so now I'm eating a pile of stuff I shouldn't put in my body. It may look like I was supposed to work out today, but now I need to handle all this really urgent stuff. And so I'm not going to the gym or I'm not going for the walk. It can look a lot of different ways. But I see that as a big contributor to our getting fat. Sitting on the phone while eating and like reading social media makes you not notice that you're full. It makes you not notice that you're full. And that's because you're allowing yourself to be available when you should just sit down and eat your food. Car accidents. Do I need to explain that? I don't think I need to explain that. Is that text really that important that killing somebody with your car happens? Mm-mm. You don't think it can happen to you? It can happen to you. And I think the bigger picture umbrella for this is you end up neglecting that which is most important in favor of that which feels most urgent. It's one thing to be the person who is paid to be always available for Amazon on night shift for a set period of time to answer people's inquiries at midnight on a Saturday, right? That's one thing. It's quite another to decide you need to be always available every moment of every day. And I think we sometimes look really fondly at times in the past and we romanticize how it was back then. And on the topic of being always available, I kind of look back to the 1980s when you couldn't always be available because you didn't always have a phone with you, right? The person you were trying to reach had to be home to pick up the phone. And while, yes, car phones existed, they were like the size of half a shoebox and attached by a cord to your car at that time and really expensive. So people just didn't have those. So you had to, if you wanted to reach somebody, you would like pick up a phone, dial it, it would ring at their house. And if they weren't home or they didn't hear it, they didn't pick it up. And if they were on the toilet or you were on the toilet when it rang, it was very unlikely you were going to finish that, get out to the phone, race to the wall it's plugged into, pick it up and get there on time. And so you're like, oh, I hear the phone ringing. I'll call whoever that is back when I'm done. Now think about this. Earlier than the 80s, before we had a way to see who called or for them to leave a message, you just didn't know who called, right? That's what set that foundation for when the phone rings, you answer it. We pretty much were accustomed, though, by the 80s of just waiting for a call back without being offended. That's how phones worked. And if you didn't reach somebody one day for whatever, it was what it was, and you tried again the next day or you tried again later. And that was just part of your natural rhythm. And the negative aspect to the 80s and the phones, because, we look back and we romanticize, I didn't have to always be available. Well, here's what happened in the 80s, though. When the phone rang, you pretty much dropped everything to go pick it up if you could, because you didn't know who it was. You didn't know if it was important, and you pick it. So if phone rang, you pick it up. And what's funny is that has set the foundation for the expectation we have today of being always available, as these things called cell phones have become ubiquitous in our culture and in our lives. We took a thing that pretty much needed immediate response to be able to work, to connect us to our loved ones and information, and you had to, like, call them back or whatever, and we made it into a thing that you could carry with you in your pocket everywhere you go. And then we already had this expectation of if the ring happens, you pick it up. And so then that translates over to when this thing that's not attached to the wall or any geographical location rings, you immediately respond because it's a call. And then we added text messages, and then we added email, and then we added calendar notices, and then all the chat apps came up and social media, and pretty much you had, like, before you know it, you had 20 things you're supposed to be responding to on this little teeny device that's supposed to make your life easier. The cell phone is basically not a phone. It's a tiny mobile computer at this point. It does process calls, but it's a tiny mobile computer that has all your things on it. And we have attached the expectation of a phone to this tiny computer, and then that's spilled over into our actual computers if you have one. And now the expectation is to be always available and respond to any of the 20 or so ways that people have to reach us. And this is causing, I think, a terrible communication problem. And here's why. If you can reach me in 20 ways, you might as well not be able to reach me at all. Because you're now depending on my built-in computer, this computer right here that resides above my shoulders, my brain, to remember the chat we had, or the text we had, or that long email I kind of skimmed because it was on my phone and the letters were small. And if I don't have my glasses on, I can't really see. I can see the shapes. And sometimes I make up other words that fit a similar shape. Right. And these glasses are for reading only. So if I'm walking around like normal, I'll fall on my face because I see things that are far away really well, but not things that are close up so well. And that means that if I put these glasses on, then the things far away become hard to see. And usually when I'm walking around, I want to see the stuff far away, right? So you're depending on my brain to remember that, or that you put a comment on Facebook. And sometimes I will have commented below your comment on Facebook, having not ever seen your comment, right? That's what this expectation has put. It's actually added more failure than it has helped. And always available has transformed into always available and always all the time, right? Not just always available if there's an emergency text, but no, I need to answer the Facebook and the MeWe and the Telegram and the Signal and the text message and whatever other chat apps are coming up and the Twitter, it's all of that. So this is not reasonable. This is not good for you or me. This is one of those places where I think you have a lot of room to redefine this expectation, this entitlement that other people have on your time. It's actually your time. You control your time, even if you think you don't. Even if you work for somebody, you control your time. What you're doing is trading your time for them to tell you what they want done in that time, right? But you control it. Ultimately, you can walk away. And when you redefine the expectation in your life, you may find, as a result of not being always available, that you have more time to get your garden in. You may find you have better relationships with those around you and fewer drop balls. Just by stopping it, by stopping being always available. And I say the word just sometimes, and it turns out that just is harder than it is. Like, we have a joke around here. If I say, well, let's just hook up that outdoor shower, which needs to be hooked up, the guys know that it's going to be 4 trips to the plumbing store, and 7 days later, we just hooked up the outdoor shower. But I think stopping being always available is a just. It's a choice. It's kind of like freedom. Freedom isn't hard, but it takes discipline and it takes some work. Being always available, not being always available isn't hard. You just have to do it. You have to change it from always available to reasonably available. I'm not saying like go out in the woods and turn off for 2 months, although if you can do that, that actually probably be really good for you. Most of you, including me, you. But change it to reasonably available. Let those closest to you know, hey, I'm trying a new thing. This is why I'm doing it, and this is how I want to set it up. And you need to set it up for yourself, how you do it, right? And then enforce it. Because when you've set an expectation that you're always available, When you change to reasonably available, that means there are times when you're not available. And if people disrespect that, what has to happen is when they try to disrespect that, you literally are not available. Eventually, what happens is people no longer expect a return text at 2 a.m. or 9 p.m. or whenever that time is that you are in silent mode. Eventually, folks catch on that you don't have email conversations via SMS, which drives me crazy. Like the really long ones. Oh my gosh. I can't even read them. I can't see what you're saying anyway. Why do that to me? That's stupid. Eventually, people will learn more efficient ways to interact with you. And from there, they integrate it into their lives and start doing that with other people. And we start infecting everybody with this reasonably available expectation rather than always available. But it is a retraining effort. And the retraining effort starts with you. Nobody other than you can do this. No matter how many times you say, don't contact me now, or these are the ways in which I'm going to communicate, unless you just hold that line, it's not gonna happen. I changed my name. My first name was Sarah. I changed it to my middle name, which is Nicole. Actually, I didn't legally change my name. So my first name still is Sarah on paper. And the way I did it, the reason I did it is there were, I don't know, 3 or 4 other Sarahs on a 12-person dormitory floor in college, which got really confusing really quickly. And after about 2 weeks of nobody knew what was up, I opened my door and I announced to the floor, "My name is now Nicole. And if anybody called me Sarah, I refused to answer." I am that stubborn twit. Yep, that's what I did. And it took about 1 week. And then they started calling me Snicole. I have somebody who still calls me Snoll because she thinks it's funny. And she knew me as Sarah before, and that's fine. And it worked. It's exactly the same with being always available. And today, I actually kind of joked this morning with the rednecks that I was scheduling my daily breakdown today for 4 p.m. because it is important for them to be in the loop on what hour of the day that I'm going to have a breakdown. I plan to have these breakdowns at around 4 every day between now and April 25th. And this is because the to-do list for getting ready for the Living Free in Tennessee workshop is doable, but it's really long and it looks overwhelming. And when you start something, things don't always go right. And by the end of the day, you're like, and I just need to have a breakdown. And they kind of took it as a joke, but it really isn't a joke. I have to find a way to release the pent up frustration that I'm going to have every day at about 4 because it's a large project and you get frustrated. And so here's what's going to happen at 4 p.m. today. I'm going to drop what I'm doing because I've built in time for myself to have a breakdown. And I'm going to turn off all notifications on my phone. Probably not even going to take my phone with me unless I decide to listen to some music. And I'm going to basically say, you can ask me questions, but I probably won't answer them. And unless I talk to you, I might not want to talk. And then I'm going to go become a rhinoceros. You know what a rhinoceros does here? A rhinoceros is through some seemingly non-important thing that needs to be done that suddenly has become very important to the rhinoceros. It could be anything. It can be organizing plumbing fixtures. Yesterday, it was transplanting lettuce. Like, it kind of needs to be done, but nothing's going to die if I don't do it. But I rhinoceros through transplanting lettuce. And that started with a weed whacker. And it started with moving all of my trees that needed to be somewhere where I could water them more easily so that they were not in the way of me transplanting lettuce. And then I could finally transplant lettuce. And it took me an hour. And during that time, if you talked to me about other things, you got very, 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 very grumpy answers. And some people interpret me in this phase, in the rhinoceros phase, as mad at them for not helping me, but that's not what's up. I'm just like, oh, I'm overwhelmed and I need to get something done and I can mark off the list and it's done. What does this have to do with not being available? Well, let me tell you something. When I turn into a rhinoceros at 4 today, I will not be available. And if the Pope dies, I'm going to have no idea it happened. If there's a family emergency, I'm not going to know it happened until that hour is over. And you know what? Any action I would take if the Pope dies or if somebody in my family needs urgent help can wait 60 minutes. And usually when something like that happens in a rhinoceros hour, it's like 5 minutes. So even if the worst happens and I miss my chance to say goodbye to somebody in their last moments, if that person and I are close, they will know I love them and I will know that while I may feel a pang of regret, because I would, The fear of that pain should not stop me from creating a more balanced life and turning off expectations of being always available all the time. And it's frankly highly unlikely to happen in that 60 minutes, right? And if you are at a place in your life where there's a person for whom you really need to be available, like I talked to somebody who she said the one time she left her two kids at home who are, older teens to go get her hair done for 1 hour, somebody tried to break into her house. And it was the one time she didn't answer her phone right away. And then her husband called her, right? Well, okay, you can program that into your phone. Okay, so you see I lied a little bit about being rhinoceros. Um, there are a few people who, if they send me a text message on my phone when it's in do not disturb mode, it will go through anyway. If the Pope dies, they're not sending me a message. But if somebody in my family is kind of on the way out suddenly and I can talk to them, I'll probably get a text message and it will go through to me. And the people who have this power would never abuse it because they love me and they understand why they have the power and why other people don't. And so that's a way to create balance and not have to have the fear of missing out, right? So I think that's how we can take technology that is harming our ability to focus, our productivity, and our sanity and use it to create a balance between availability and performance. Because performance is important, but if you're always interruptible, and if being always available means being always interruptible, then you've got problems to improve performance because it's hard to perform when somebody's always like hitting you with different things and you're like, oh, I can't ever concentrate on anything long enough to finish it. It's terrible. It's a terrible feeling. So this is the epitome, I think, with technology and being able to program this little device, if you're going to use it in your life, to go into silent mode when you need to not be disturbed, to manually put it in silent mode, to take off notifications that shouldn't be there. I don't get email notifications on my phone anymore. I do email on my computer, and you know what happens? Now I actually answer emails. I answer them more slowly sometimes. I don't answer them right away, but I look at my email about once a day, sometimes twice a day, sometimes more if I'm on a project that requires it. But once a day, once every other day, I look at email and I can see that I haven't answered stuff because it's there, and then I answer it, and then it's gone. What used to happen is I would look at it on my phone for a preview. It would mark it as unread, and then I would think I'd answered the person because I answered them in my head, and it was gone. The same with that, you can set up your emergency contacts to get you and tell them SMS in an emergency. If you call me, it won't ring, right? That's the epitome of the problem is the solution. That's what we say in permaculture, right? I have this problem with this hillside that grows a bunch of noxious weeds. Well, you know what I'm doing with this hillside? It's been a slow go. I'm teaching it to grow less noxious weeds. I plant weeds up there. I go around and I look at wild edibles and wild herbal plants, and I put them up there, and then I encourage them to grow and discourage the stuff I don't want to grow. And over time, it's getting a little better each year because the problem is the solution. The same with technology. Anyway, if you like the show and want to support the work I'm doing, you can do it in two ways. One, get your coffee at hollowroast.com. The other way is to become a member over at Living Free in Tennessee. That's livingfreeintennessee.com. Click on membership for $50 a year. One of the big benefits everybody loves is that they get 3 webinars a year. And the webinar we have right now is a members only webinar. Sometimes I sell them and let you get access to them for free if you're a member. This one is members only, and it is the relocation roundtable discussion, which I know a lot of you are interested in. So if you want to become a member, sign up for that $50 plan. You'll get 2 more webinars this year. Next month, I believe, it's either next month or June, we're going to have Sue Zoldak on about setting up your brand, setting up a strong brand. It's going to be a really awesome one. And then I'm also going to do a webinar on how to get your footing going in these alternate social media platforms like MeWe and the Float app, stuff like that, Odyssey. Things you can do because the approach to them is a little bit different than your established giants like Facebook and Twitter, right? And YouTube. Totally different approach, but it's a little bit easier actually to get a foothold on the emerging platforms. So those are all going to happen as member webinars. Membership for that is $50 a year for 3 webinars, or I do a webinar a month, or somebody does. Sue's doing May or June, and I won't be doing May or June because Sue's doing it. You get unlimited webinars if at the $120 premium membership level. Anyway, guys, with that, go out, make it a great week. YouTube, you weren't very chatty today, but hi, Waylena. Okay, so we're going to end this stream and get this produced, and life is good. Woo!